While 2 Corinthians chapter 1, verse 20 says that in Elohim the promises are yes, and in him they are amen, it still is required of us to believe in order for those things to come to pass. Hi, it's Barry Phillips with 10 Minute Torah, day 4, the Torah portion Vera, and we are in chapter 21 in the book of Bereshit, or Genesis. Verse 1 says, and following, and Yahweh visited Sarah as he had said, and Yahweh did for Sarah as he had spoken. So Sarah conceived and bore Abraham a son in his old age at the appointed time of which Elohim had spoken to him. And Abraham called the name of his son who was born to him, whom Sarah bore to him, Yitzhak. The elderly couple now are rejoicing that they have a beautiful son, Yitzhak. A couple of interesting things even before we get started. In chapter number 18, Yah had said to Abraham and to Sarah, he said, this time next year, I'm going to bring forth a son through Sarah, your wife. Sarah laughed and thought, how is this even possible? What's also interesting is in the previous chapter, Yah said to Abraham in chapter 17 and verse 15, Elohim said to Abraham, as for Sarah your wife, do not call her name Sarai, for Sarah is her name, and I shall bless her and also give you a son by her. Yah had already told Abraham this, that Sarah was going to bear him a child. In chapter 18, it seems to be fresh news to Sarah. Did Abraham, her husband, not tell her what Yah said? Some things about this marriage, I just kind of shake my head a little bit. Now we are in chapter 21, and the promise has come to pass. And Sarah has conceived, and she has bore to Abraham a son. And it says that after 8 days here that Abraham took Yitzhak and circumcised him, and that he was 100 years old, which means then Sarah had given birth to Yitzhak when she was 90. Now, we had already known from, again, chapter number 18, when Yah said, I'm going to bring forth through Sarah a son, Sarah laughed because the way of women, it says, her cycle had already passed from her. In other words, Sarah was post-menopausal. That's not hard for us to believe. She would have been about 88, 89 years of age at this point. So the cycle system had already passed from her. Now, I know that there are women that have thought themselves to be in menopause and surprised they have a baby. That has happened. But it would seem that it has been so long that it is a physical impossibility. So, something happened here, because just as we talked yesterday, Abimelech saw Sarah in her elderly age and thought her beautiful enough that he wanted her as his wife, to be a part of his harem. Leaves me scratching my chin, literally, physically. I just, what's going on? Is the chronological writing of this out of sync? Are we seeing a mix-up of chapters here, or is there something more going on? Let's go to Romans. Romans chapter number 4. There we read concerning Abraham, who was being referenced. And in verse 17, he says, as it has been written, I have made you a father of many nations, in the presence of him whom he believed, even Elohim, who gives life to the dead and calls that which does not exist as existing. Resurrection power is being suggested here, giving life to the dead, but it's more than that. That resurrection power is not just experienced at the resurrection. Resurrection power gives life to those areas of our lives that are dead. The womb, the female birth organs of Sarah were dead, that is no longer producing the potential of life. And Yah spoke or speaks to that area of her life and causes it to become alive again. Continuing here in Romans, it says concerning Abraham, who against all expectation did believe in expectation, so that he should become the father of many nations, according to what was said, so shall your seed be. And having not grown weak in belief, he did not consider his own body already dead, being about 100 years old, and the deadness of Sarah's womb. So again, we're being told Sarah's womb was dead, yet Yah called it to life and gave it resurrection power. For he did not hesitate about the promise of Elohim through unbelief, but was strengthened in belief, giving esteem to Elohim, being completely persuaded that what he had promised, he was also able to perform or to do. So Romans 4 helps us to understand what we're going through here in this Torah portion in this regard. Sarah is past the potential of giving birth, of even conceiving. Yah rejuvenates her womb, and the process, evidently, he also rejuvenates her physically to the place that she is youthful in her appearance, to the place that Abimelech, a sovereign king, sees her, yearns and desires for her, and takes her. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that if you have enough faith that you can look 20, 30, 40 years younger. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that you don't need any other care system for your body. Just believe, and the Father will restore you physically. It would be nice. What an interesting fountain of youth type mindset. But at least for this woman, the promise of Yah required that a woman in her late 80s into her 90th year become pregnant. And that means then that Abraham and Sarah engaged again in the procreation activity in order to produce a son. And they believed that this is not just about personal enjoyment here. This is about an exercise to produce continuing generations, because Yah promised us. And it says that they were strengthened in their act or in their pursuits of obedience. Yah strengthened them. There is a cross reference from Thayer's with the Blue Letter Bible that talks about this word strengthen being likened to the floods in Bereshit or Genesis chapter 7 verse 20, that they were mighty on the earth. There was power going on. It may not be the subject of conception that you're dealing with. Who knows what your issue may be? But Yah speaks life into that. And if you're willing to trust him and believe and act in belief, there's no limit as to what Yah can do through us, no matter what our circumstance is. Trust him and see what he'll do. And I'll see you again tomorrow. To then, shalom.